Okay, I want to get into our top story today here in just a moment. DHS video characterizes white Americans as most likely terrorists. I want to illustrate from every angle why this is so big and play part of the disgusting see something, say something 9-minute Homeland Security video and stop it every 10 seconds or so and just analyze. This is 100% overt what they've done with this. And so I want to break that down. This is a total takeover. And it's very simple. It's a false flag. Hitler firebombs the Reichstag to declare a police state in Germany. Hitler blows up his own military base in Gleiwitz to blame on the Poles to launch World War II. The Tsars did it in Russia. The Soviets did it. The British have been caught doing it over and over again. Mainline British headlines, MI6 running the IRA, staging bombings as a pretext to clamp down on the Irish, as an excuse to continue to keep troops there. This is the oldest trick in the book. Now remember, I've told you for 9 years, white Al-Qaeda. I even said they're going to call it white Al-Qaeda. I know them. I study them. I'm like a criminologist following a serial killer for decades. I know their next move. I'm on record. And it may even be they just grab the terms I come up with. Like I told you about propaganda placement and message placement and police state placement. Now they even use those terms. So I don't know if it's chicken or the egg, which one came first. The point is, then about 6 years ago, white Al-Qaeda, white Al-Qaeda, white Al-Qaeda, white Al-Qaeda. Actually, now that I remember it, England started it 9 years ago, so I saw them do it first. I didn't actually predict that. I'm going back to memory now. So it started there. I knew it was coming here. So that's going on. Then I get the manuals from police going, yeah, this is what they're telling us. The rural council to spy on neighbors, everything else. I knew from manuals that came in and sources that all over the country, mainly rural areas, they'll say, we're having a meeting at the law enforcement center this weekend, free donuts and lunch. Anybody who's concerned about Al-Qaeda and terror attacks, this happened right from 9/11 and since, we want you to come down to the meeting. And you get there, they show an Al-Qaeda training video, and they say, okay, now let's get to McVeigh, let's get to Ron Paul supporters, let's get to gun owners, let's get to returning veterans. And most of the folks get upset and leave. They don't care. They find the people that want to be part of it. I saw an AP article where it said, don't just trust that priest or that woman with a baby carriage. They may be the terrorists. It's about everybody's a terrorist. First, they start with the unpopular Muslims. Then they move on to blacks in America. Then they move on to the whiteys. Continuing here. Despite encouraging viewers not to pay attention to a person's race in determining whether or not they may be a terrorist, almost all the scenarios in the clip proceed to portray white people as the most likely terrorist. They show like one 9/11 hijacker. Bizarrely, nearly every single one of the patriotic Americans who reports on their fellow citizens is either black, Arab, or Asian. Again, this is all heavily scripted. They decide all of this stuff beforehand. Imagine if the video portrayed every terrorist as an Arab and every patriotic snoop is white, there'd be an outcry, and rightly so. We have warned of this for years, that first, governments throughout history get rid of the country's liberties and freedoms by going after an unpopular minority group. Hitler, it was the Jews, communists, stuff like that. Here, it was the Muslims. The system stages the events, provocateurs, nutcases. It's a whole grab bag of different types of provocateur terror. Then they build the architecture of the police state for the general public. So they have white audiences where they say, we're going after the brown people. Then they go to the brown audiences and they say, we're going after the white people. And that's what this nearly 10-minute Department of Homeland Security video does. But it's worse than that. We have all the different training manuals sent to us by police and military over the years that we've published and have made national news. Homeland Security, MIAC, the list goes on and on. And in the training, over 90% is for what? Remember a few years ago, veterans seen as the #1 terror threat returning home? Remember a few months ago, okay, finally Congress voted for health care for the military, police, and fire veterans in 9/11, but you got to go through a terror database every time you get your health care? They're setting that precedent. Ron Paul supporters, Bob Barr supporters, people that like America, freedom to fascism, people that like Alex Jones. This is in the different manuals. And then they say these groups are connected to racism. So they make it about being white by saying, oh, they're connected to white supremacists when there's no connection. Meanwhile, Hal Turner, one of the top Nazis, it turns out in federal court, high-level FBI operative for decades. working, of course, with Sean Hannity. That came out. Just look up Hal Turner, Sean Hannity. Very bizarre. Let's go ahead and start getting into the rest of the video as I analyze it here. PrisonPlanet.tv viewers can see it, but we're here critiquing this taxpayer-paid-for propaganda. We have the video posted up at Infowars.com in our articles. Let's continue. You got the black guy calling in the evil white people, and then it cuts to a bunch of shots of news articles of white terrorists in every case, mentally ill provocateurs, or purely staged government ops like McVeigh. It has animated blue eyes shining. Oh my gosh, the white devil's going to get... Got to point this out. You've got one of the federal and local top police analysts predicting future terror threats, Mr. Farrell, over in England, when he found out it was the government behind 7/7, and he said the new threat, and he brought up that other cases of where it was admitted with the British government had staged terror, they fired him. So see, all they want is little dumbed-down control freaks. I've tried on air to call Homeland Security to report terror over and over again, and the numbers don't work or nobody answers. It's all fake. It's all fake. They use the NSA to spy on people, so in case you find out the government's about to stage a terror attack, or a corporation is, to get naked body scanners in, or whatever the case is, so they can use NSA spying to make sure police don't get alerted and that they can go forward with the bombing. Of course, the feds have been caught over and over again in some DMVs handing out 20, 30,000 fake IDs to illegals. I mean, every crime they're talking about here is the feds. They are the drug-dealing, murdering scumbags that work for foreign banks. They're getting ready to blow more stuff up. I'm telling you, they're getting ready, and they're getting ready to unleash white Al-Qaeda. It'll be as phony as a $3 bill, but they don't care. Only exposing the terror attacks and taking that tool away from them is going to defeat them. And they're hopping mad, people, now. Every time there's a new terror attack, look around and watch and see what's happening. Our listeners caught the underwear bomber being brought on the plane by the U.S. government. And it came out to be true a month and a half later. So we're watching, you murderers. The real patriots are watching and listening. And they know who to watch. They know who to watch. Private contractors. They know who to watch. The FBI. We know who to watch. The Foreign Intelligence Services. Mossad. MI6. We know who to watch. We're watching you. Don't you worry. You want to get us watching each other? We're watching you, and you don't like that, do you? You don't want people discussing that government staged terror throughout history. Your little treat, your little jig is up, murderers. Because a lot of us don't care what you do to us. We're totally committed because we know you're murderers. And we know there's no future if we don't stop you murdering control freak eugenics filth. Okay, Maggie in California, you're on the air. Welcome.
Thank you. I went to the Drudge Report, and I clicked on the DHS link, and I got about 5.5 minutes into it, and I was horrified. Everything you said was true. So I called Senator Lieberman's office, who's the chairman.
The Mossad officer?
And I got nothing, no response. I mean, it was just whatever, lady. And so I called my own congressman's office, and not much better response. And I thought, you know, one person can't do it. But I explained that crime is not a color. And why aren't you focusing on the 99.9% of the terrorists that are attacking everyone in the world? And my encouragement to everyone listening is look at the report, look at the video, look at the history, and start calling everybody you can think of to call.
Exactly. Let me add this, because let's just say the Muslims did 9/11 and NORAD stood down and the Easter Bunny's real. Why in the internal manuals is it all about non-Muslims? Why did the head of Homeland Security a month ago, Mr. Napolitano, why did she say that the number one threat is domestics, and then it was illogical to profile and focus on Muslims? If the Muslims really did 9/11, and this is all for 9/11, well, then why is it for everybody? Because, I'm sorry, ma'am, go ahead.
You're making valid points, and I go back to that Missouri report. The DHS connected things several years ago. Everybody in there was a Christian or a Second Amendment or a libertarian, and those are the core values of America. And it seems like anything. My father was a paratrooper. He jumped out of perfectly good airplanes in Germany in World War II. So I was raised to love my country, and I am horrified at what I'm seeing.
Well, you love the troops and the old America that was good, but America has had a corporate takeover happen. And so, of course, they're destroying everything that is the spirit of the United States and then wrapping their tyranny in the flag and hoping to confuse people. But folks are waking up.